早晨，我哋而家咧就係進行2014。
Good morning. This is a meeting of the Subcommittee on District Councils Ordinance Amendment of Schedules 1 and 3, Order 2013. The first thing is to elect a chairman and a deputy chairman. And of course, I have to announce that we have formed a quorum, and let's get started. To nominate a candidate for chairman, we should have at least one member nominating the candidate and one seconder. Nomination, please. I nominate Mr. Yip Kok Kim. Do you accept the nomination? Mr. Ma Fong Kok is the seconder. Do we have a second nomination? If not, Mr. Yip Kok Kim, please take over the chair. Thank you. This subcommittee now proceeds to a formal meeting. Do we need a deputy chairman? Members, do you think we need a deputy chairman? No? In that case, let's invite the officials to join us. This is about District Councils Ordinance Amendment of Schedules 1 and 3 Order. Is proposed because in 2015-2016, in the new term of the new DC elections, there will no longer be any appointed DC members. Therefore, in some district councils, some changes will be made to the numbers, and also there are some adjustments to tie in with their operation. There was some previous discussion in our subcommittee, and as you can see in the document, that there were consultations with the Eastern District Council and the Wan Chai District Council. And now it's tabled in the form of an order. This order would move 2 seats from the Eastern District Council to Wan Chai. So Wan Chai will have 13 seats instead of 11, and the Eastern District Council will have its seats adjusted to 35 from 37 to 35. Today we have Mr. Gordon Leung, Deputy Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, as well as Ms. Emma Wong, Senior Government Counsel, in attendance. So over to you, Deputy Secretary, for your introduction to the order. Thank you, Chairman. Actually, you have succinctly introduced the background to the amendment order. Earlier this year, we reviewed the total number of elected seats in the next term of DCs. Earlier on, you also endorsed the proposal to increase the number of elected DC seats by 19. As we indicated in the last exercise, there was a body of opinion that a certain adjustment can be made to the EDC and Wan Chai DC. In Wan Chai, because of the loss of appointed seats, the number of elected seats in Wan Chai will be on the low side, while the Eastern District Council will still have a very good number of elected seats. So it was considered that certain suitable adjustments to the two district councils elected seats will be good for operation. And we said we would consult the two DCs and their constituents. And we did this in the summer vacation period. And simply put, the two district councils concerned have agreed to the change in the number of elected seats. In short, 2 seats would be given to Wan Chai, DC. And the general opinion received is in favor of the change. And you may refer to the legislative brief, paragraph 5. So, the two constituencies, C16, C18, and that is Tin Hau and Victoria Park, will be transferred from EDC to Wan Chai DC. So, in terms of the number of elected seats, EDC will have 35 instead of 37, and for Wan Chai DC, 13 instead of 11. So that's the background, Chairman. All right. Now we can have a discussion of the order. Well, if you want to make adjustments, why don't you do it to a greater extent? Because for Wan Chai DC, it would be 35, and Wan Chai, it would be 13 instead of 11. Eastern DC, 35 instead of 37. If you have 35 people attending a meeting, and each spend half a minute, and that would take up the entire meeting time. So their speaking time will be very limited. Can we give 2 more or some more to Wan Chai DC? Well, when we considered making changes, we did consider different options. So there was, of course, a proposal to keep more seats or transfer more seats from EDC to Wan Chai DC. But in the consultation, diverse views were expressed. There were people for it, and there were people against it. And among them, some opined that the integrity of the district concerned will be affected if too many seats are transferred. And also a big change would affect public services. For example, school nets. Local residents have strong views about making big changes to school nets. So having considered the acceptability on the part of the local residents, we have come down to this 2 seats option. Mr. Christopher Chung, I have to declare my interest as a member of the EDC and a former chairman. There was one time we had 46 members, but things were conducted smoothly. We did not suppress the speaking time of members. Members could speak their mind, and we could allow everyone 3 rounds. And very often we would end before 8, and for committee meetings before 6:30 p.m. because many powers are delegated to committees. We borrowed this from the former Urban Council and this council as well. We did consider the integrity of communities in the districts. All along, Causeway Bay can be said to belong to Eastern District and also said to belong to the Wan Chai. The police station is in our district, the post office is in their district, and same for Tai Hang. Many of the areas in Tai Hang belong to Tin Hau. So at first, the DC members distributed their work reports to the wrong people because you have people belonging to another district council just next to your number on the street. So I think giving Tai Hang, and that is Tin Hau, Victoria Park, to Wan Chai is appropriate, and this is borne out by our consultation with Kai Fong. But of course, other people may have different ideas. North Point, for example, has always been part of Eastern District, and they don't think they should belong to Wan Chai. And because we respect the public opinion, we have come to the position that 2 seats or 2 districts, 2 district council constituencies should be given to Wan Chai. Any supplement from you, Deputy Secretary, or not for the time being? Well, I also participated in the discussion. There were 14 constituency areas in North Point, and the consultation tells us that people prefer minimal change, and Tin Hau and Victoria Park are more acceptable candidates for transfer to Wan Chai, DC. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang, it's difficult to redraw such constituency boundaries. It has to do with assigning population to different districts, and it has to do with people's acceptability and adaptability in the light of changes. And also, we have to respect the views of incumbent district councillors. Many factors have to be considered. There's an imbalance in the population numbers among the 18 district councils, and that has given rise to certain comments. District councils with fewer seats would think that their operations are easier, and they would have more ample time than bigger district councils to express their views. My district council is not the biggest. We had 42 DC members. It ranks number 3 or number 4. When we have a major consultation exercise, time is very tight, especially in a full district council meeting. And if we have to complete the entire agenda in half a day, it's difficult. And now Eastern DC is generous in agreeing to give these seats or these constituency areas to this Wan Chai. As I've said, there are many factors to consider. It's a difficult task. But is it that the 2 district councils have done a lot of things and have made very good improvement? I just don't think so. The seats will go up from 11 to 13, but we need to even out things to a greater extent. For the Eastern DC, they will have 35 instead of 37 seats. There will be no more appointed DC members. Still, the pressure is heavy. It's still a big council. I think the government should be bolder. I know it's difficult. Now you have undergone so much consultation, and I think with a lot of forbearance, the district councillors have been able to chip in to help. And I do understand that if we propose something more drastic, it would be difficult for district councils or council members to accept. So in general, I support the latest proposal. Deputy Secretary, I thank the member for his support, as he has rightly put. There are many factors to consider. We'll continue to keep track the operation of district councils, and there will be reviews in the future.
Sit-ho. Well, the government has said that things will work over time. But for the 4 district councils on Hong Kong Island, right from the beginning, Eastern District has been the largest. In Eastern District, the EDC is equivalent to the combination of Wan Chai, Central and Western, and Southern District Council. I don't know what the logic is there. But Mr. Leung, can you tell us why the demarcation of the councils like that? And from the start, when you drew the boundaries of the various district councils, what logic did you use? You knew that EDC is much bigger than other district councils on Hong Kong Island. So now you say that Wan Chai is too small and EDC is too big. So I don't understand why all of a sudden you would realize the need to redraw the boundaries and not earlier on. And secondly, for small constituencies, there may be 1 or 2 residential blocks there only. Sometimes we think that the demarcation of smaller constituencies should be done more carefully. But you may want to use population with a margin of 50% as the basis. But for large districts, it's quite rare to see such drawing of constituency areas. Like Tseung Kwan O, you can see the population, what's there now, it has a population of 400,000. And you wouldn't particularly, draw particular lines for a constituency area. So, Chairman, can I ask him to explain to us why it has taken so long for him to reduce the number from 37 to 35 in the absence of, just because of the absence of appointed members? And I also like the government to tell us, after the withdrawing of boundaries, would that have any effect on school nets or other municipal services, school place allocation for primary 1 and secondary 1, and also the various districts under the HA, Hospital Authority, and police divisions? Would they be affected? And also my third question is, all along we've got a lot of statistical figures. For example, in Wan Chai, we know the population there, the average income there. We all know Wan Chai is the richest after Central and Western on Hong Kong Island. So with redrawing of boundaries, what implications would that have for the statistical figures? Will you actually provide notes to various figures? Because I think there could be confusions and statistics could be affected. So now you're saying there's more population there, that's why I allocate more seats to the other district. But you haven't mentioned about the implications on public services. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Ho, for your questions. First of all, why is it that, I'd have to look at the record to see the situation in the East DC. But I think right from the very beginning, the boundaries were drawn on the basis of population distribution and the identity of a district, people's sense of identity with the district. Of course, in Hong Kong, population is not evenly distributed across districts, and there have been demographic changes over the years. So all along, we've used a criterion of 17,000 people for the setting up of an area. As for public services, we did carry out an assessment with various government departments what we know is that the latest plan would not have any effect on public services, except in the allocation of school nets, as mentioned in our paper. For school place allocation, individual 1 or 2 secondary primary schools will need to adjust their school nets. All along, actually, the Education Bureau did carry out similar adjustments in the past because of other reasons. So we'll consult parents and schools on this. And about your third question about statistical collection of statistical figures, you may not remember that a few years ago in Shamshui-Po district, there was a minor adjustment made because housing estate, when it was built, it was right at the intersection of 2 areas. So therefore, we made a minor adjustment to allocate that block into the Shamshui-Po district. So I think in the future, when Census Department collect figures, it would actually provide notes for minor adjustments made. So in the future, for any users of census statistics, we will provide them with appropriate footnotes. Mr. Leung, well, I think for details that he has not provided today, I will ask him to tell us in paper. In paragraph 15, on the issue of school nets, you mentioned the figures, that is 2 secondary schools and 2 primary schools. Can you tell us the names of these public and secondary and primary schools who will be affected? Can you tell us? For example, BPS will be affected, and the other one should be Zhengzhukshan English Medium School. And for in the Tin Hau and Victoria Park boundary, I think Queen's College would also be affected. So in Cloudview, in the area at the junction of Tin Hau Temple Road and Cloudview Road, there's a cluster of schools there. Yeah, I will tell you the names of the schools in those areas. And for the school, but the schools just named by Ms. Sid Ho would not be affected indeed. So when you provide us with the paper, please put down the names of the schools so we know for sure what they are. And please tell us the population and the number of school places in the districts. What are the differences before and after the new boundaries are drawn? So parents know will their chances of getting into any school be affected. So please, Mr. Leung, provide us with such detail. Yes, just not many members asked to speak. That's why I didn't tell you your time limit. But I think each member should have 7 minutes. Now, 7 minutes for each for the second round, if you have questions. Next one. Marvin Kwok. Paragraph 6 mentions that the government is considering making the adjustment. But it seems that the government seems to be in a passive position on the demarcation of boundaries. What's the government's role? Is it that the government should provide opinions for district council to consider, or should these proposals be originating from DC? But shouldn't it be the government's initiative to actually propose real or new demarcations of boundaries? Yes, I think we do respect these operations. As suggested by a member, various district councils have their own style and ways of handling things. So during our previous round of review of elected members, we basically, as I said, the quota allocation approach based on population. So that criteria of 17K people So if there were to be minor adjustments, then we know that that's why we said in the paper that the minor adjustments would be beneficial to both districts. And so this is an interactive process. And doing the review of the elected members in the DCs, and we've also collected some views, and therefore we took the follow-up action. But in Wong Tai Sin District Council and Kwun Tong DC, those district councils, there were different views, and in the end, the government took a stance. I think this also involves, actually, it's a matter about use of public resources. So, actually, I want to know, according to what criteria did the government make its final decision? Would it be because both district councils or 3 district councils have put forward a certain view? Or would you actually put more weight on other sort of criteria? Chairman, just then Mr. Ma said that during the review of elected seats for the 2016 election, he made a right point that apart from Causeway Bay and Wan Chai District Council, actually other district councils also suggested that the number of seats could be adjusted. So apart from mathematical adjustments, there could be adjustments as suggested. For example, in the case of Wong Tai Sin and Kowloon City District Councils, there was the idea of whether to maintain Kai Tak seats into Kowloon City or turn some of the seats over to Wong Tai Sin District. There was also the suggestion that some of the seats should be allocated to Kwun Tong District. In the last paper, we did mention the fact that we did follow up on the suggestion, and we did consult the 3 district councils involved and discussed with them, and also to try to find out about the rationale for making the suggestion. And also, we adopted the important criterion that whether the councils involved supported the proposed change. And as mentioned in the paper, we will also consider whether any adjustment is acceptable to residents and whether it will have any impact on public services. So those are our factors of consideration. For the issue of the seat in Kai Tak development area in Wong Tai Sin, having consulted the Wong Tai Sin, Kowloon City, and Kwun Tong district councils, we found that some council members were strongly opposed to the plan. Therefore, in the absence of a consensus, the government took the view that we should not make any amendment at this stage. Therefore, the double DC proposal was one proposal put before us, was one that was agreed upon, mutually agreed upon by Wan Chai and the EDCs. Next one, please. Just then, Mr. Ma asked the questions actually I wanted to ask.
Some of the questions have got no answer yet from Mr. Leung. And that is, what are the criteria in this process that would lead to the government taking such a decision? Mr. Leung said the district, they would look at the number of elected seats and whether their local agreement could be sought. Are there other factors? Well, there are other factors in my mind that we should consider. For example, the boundary, whether we can draw a clear boundary between 2 districts, and also the provision of local facilities. I'm a member of the Eastern District Council. In the past, when we talk about insufficient recreational facilities in the EDC, and the department would say that Victoria Park is yours. So on a per capita basis, you have a lot. Of course, we don't agree. Victoria Park belongs to the whole territory of Hong Kong. And now with Victoria Park transfer to Wan Chai, there's no more the excuse that we have Victoria Park. Are you going to ask the LCSD to give us more open space as a result? And also the second factor is resource allocations. Let's not look too far in the history. For example, last week we have this universal accessibility program. Every district council is given a quota of 3 lifts. And the Eastern District Council, like Sha Tin District Council, has the highest number of members, 37 or 35 in the future. And now we cover a wide area. Why is it that our pedestrian crossing facilities are allocated the same sort of resources, and you are saying that the demand is the same as when we compare the EDC with other districts? Well, you may say that even though the district is bigger, it doesn't mean that you more lifts for your elevated walkways. Well, in allocating resources, very often it's done on an eco-share basis, and little attention is paid to the population concerned. So we have received complaints from residents that we are getting the same share, although we have a bigger population. Mr. Leung, I don't think you are going to change your proposal this time, but next time or in the future, and if the CE has got new resources to be shared by the 18 districts in its policy address, should you take into account the population figures instead of giving every district an equal share? I don't have much time, so let me say one more thing. The consultation was poorly done. At the very late stage, we were presented with 2 proposals, but the 2 proposals were, I would say, concocted behind our meetings. It's just one, status quo. Second, give 2 seats. So actually it's one. It's just like driving. If you don't drive straight on, you can make a turn to the left or to the right. So it's not really a genuine offer of options. That's why I say the consultation was poorly done. Well, I have some conflict of interest. I have an open mind. I represent North Point. I'm easy if there's a transfer or if there's no transfer. Why can't the government consider the bigger picture? As Mr. Chung, our former chairman, said, we have had some long meetings. The latest ones lasted until 8 or 9 p.m. The meetings are getting longer. As long as electrical meetings. Well, I cannot answer the question on resource allocation on behalf of the whole government. I cannot certainly ask the CE to allocate resources in one way or the other in the policy address. As I understand it, government departments do not just look at population figures in allocating resources. They will have regard to the environment For new districts, maybe more resources will be invested. But anyway, I'm going to take back the comment to the government to the effect that resource allocation should be done with regard to needs. As for the consultation, I did say that there were different options offered. There were different ideas. For example, can we transfer or make adjustments with regard to more DC constituency areas? And in the early stage, different DC members voiced opposition to the proposal. And that's why if the proposal is not a mature one, it would make the whole arrangement more difficult to achieve if we present those proposals which have been opposed to in the consultation. That's why we've come down with the 2 DCCA proposal. Mr. Allen Leung, I've heard long and carefully. It seems that you don't have proper criteria in doing this. Although the Deputy Secretary says it's based on 1 seat for a population of 17,000. If you look at Cap Schedule 3 of Cap 547, that is to say District Council Ordinance, and if you look at the constituency areas in those district councils, how many of these these constituency areas are actually based on the number of 17,000? Well, actually, in the previous order just passed in this council, there was a paper setting out the criterion, and that is 17,000 people plus or minus 25%. In some constituency areas, the discrepancy can exceed 25%. It can be more than 30%. So it's not absolute, according to you, Chairman. It's a problem, even if the standard is absolute. Let's say CA has 17,000, but the population mix may be very different. There may be more elderly people, there may be couples, and working adults. As we have said, redrawing the boundaries will affect school nets, the deployment of government resources, and so on and so forth. So, Deputy Secretary, is my understanding correct? And that is in drawing the boundaries of the constituency areas, apart from the criterion of 70,000 people that you can tell us? Are there other clearly set out criteria? Do you have factors with different weights, different priorities? If you look at Schedule 3, you can have up to 46 members in EDC in the last term, or that's in the last term. Now you have 3 fewer compared with smaller district councils. Islands District Council, for example, the DC members may be allowed more time to speak, and they may be able to involve in more agenda items. All these will be affected. Even for internal deployment of resources, it's not really fair and equitable. For example, some colleagues have pointed out that meetings can last up to 8 or 9 p.m. So apart from telling us that it's based on the population of 17,000, are there other factors? And are these factors prioritized in some way? And how do you weigh the different factors? Deputy Secretary, according to DC Ordinance. The number of seats is basically set on the basis of 1 seat for 17,000 people. That's an objective and transparent mechanism. And also the boundaries are actually drawn by the EAC, Electoral Affairs Commission. And every time before the next round of election, the EAC will review the boundaries with regard to the latest census statistics. This has been an effective arrangement since the 1990s. The EAC has also allowed a margin of 25%. It's a range, in other words, that the EAC can refer to. Realistically speaking, we must give the EAC flexibility. Apart from the figure, we have to take into account local characteristics. In some areas, they may have a stronger district identity, and sometimes they are self-contained as a community. So over the years, we do take into account such factors. And the ordinance also allowed the EAC to go beyond the 25% in exceptional cases. For example, a particular area is far away from other areas in another district, and it would be unreasonable to ask them to become part of that other district. So the EAC would take into account this, and every time they propose changes, there will be public consultation, so the public can express their views, and the EAC would take those views into account. And every time they go, when the EAC goes beyond the 25% margin, they will explain why. So I think that these criteria that I have referred to are about all. And there's no question of which factor overrides some other factors. Actually, it's a balancing exercise. Professor Kenneth Chan, I think Mr. Leung is trying to explain why we need to transfer to the constituency areas from EDC to Wan Chai DC, but we need to understand more the issues behind. And if we cannot get the information today, I hope the government would follow up with some background investigation and tell us more about the implications of the transfer. For example, there's a Tung Hua Group of Hospital, the Li Yun Tin Hospital at Cloudview Road. They have written to us about the implication of the redrawing of boundaries. They are not in favor of this because they are worried that if they belong to Wan Chai instead of Eastern District. Maybe we need to spend some time to understand their worries. Maybe Deputy Secretary, you should talk to the Education Bureau regarding the persuasion of parents, students, and schools. You have to tell us what kind of implications. You cannot just say that you don't think there will be any, and then we go ahead. And it's also not just a question of school nets. Some members have referred to the provision of open space and some indicators in the provision of social service. There are certain blueprint standards in government programs, and after the change, what would be the change? We need to have a checklist of what it was like before the change, and what it will be like after the change. Because there are those people who opted for this instead of the other option may have to know what would happen, what would entail. And we need to check with the Census and Statistics Department. There was an article saying that it would be difficult to track the trend after the change, because we have independent sets of statistics for each constituency area, and I've been doing some tracking myself. Please ask the CNS department whether there would be some way of taking out these two constituency areas in future studies. Can researchers in the universities take out the statistics from these two constituency areas, and so that they can compare what it was like with the future?
Consultation process. It's difficult to say what is a good consultation, but Mr. Leung just mentioned about the factor of identity to a district. I'm very interested to know, whether for the two affected areas or the entire Eastern District and Wan Chai District, carry out, questionnaires on sense of identity. You may say that, well, don't, make fun of me. But since Mr. Leung emphasized so much the factor of identity, I think we would ask a reasonable question of whether you would carry out such questionnaire or survey, or whether you think that as long as the two district councils agree there's no identity problem, people can recognize where is Wan Chai and where is Eastern District, then maybe there's no need to it. But what do you think? Mr. Leung, maybe I can provide you with a more detailed answers after the meeting as for the impact on public services. But as I said just then, we have communicated with government departments, and their view is that there will be no impact on public services. Of course, as I said, there are 2-3 secondary primary schools whose school nets will be adjusted, and we need to take follow-up action. And the Education Bureau will, as in the past, make the necessary adjustment and consult the schools and parents concerned. But our paper to be submitted later on will provide you with more details. We also liaise with the Census Department to see how we can make sure that in the future, they can provide, the figures, relevant figures they need. As for the issue of identity, district identity, let me supplement here. Of all the responses that we've received, and at district forums attended by residents, and they have told us directly that they feel that the proposal is acceptable to them. And of course, on the contrary, there are also residents who reflected to us that if there's a major change, then that would be unacceptable. So I can also provide you with some residents' views following the meeting. Okay, thank you. Now is the second round of questioning. Each will have 5 minutes. Chung Shu Ken first. Thank you. I think our district council has discussed whether to, combine 4 areas or 4 areas and so forth. Of course, not all members were present during the discussions, but as I said in the first round of questioning, because of the issue of identity, if you are not one person, it's a district person, you may not want to be a Wan Chai person all of a sudden. Another issue is school nets, because to parents, they like to see the area move to Wan Chai because Wan Chai is a better school net. So parents are very willing to see, the area transferred to Wan Chai. But for the entire Eastern District, if there are 4 areas transferred to Wan Chai, then there will be a big impact on areas like Quarry Bay and Chai Wan. They will have fewer choices of schools to choose from, good schools to choose from. In North Point, we have got 1 good school, BPS, and 2 primary schools in North Point area. Parents would not object to having more areas transferred to Wan Chai because, then they will have even more choices of good schools. But then one possible impact, another kind of impact is leisure facilities. In the Eastern District, there's a shortage of soccer pitches. So if we have the transfer of the area concerned, then there will be fewer football grounds. So the LCSD will need to consider very carefully how to make up for the loss of leisure facilities for these 2 districts. Of course, we already mentioned a lot about, maintaining the identity of people in a certain district. And I hope that the government will consider also, basically to come up with the right facilities for both areas. And in our district council meeting, each member was given several minutes to comment on the proposal. And normally in our committee meeting, we had our meeting continued till after 7 p.m. Depending on the chairmanship of a committee. So sometimes, meetings overran till 8 p.m. And every 2 years, we re-elect a new chairman for each committee. So I think when it comes to the operations in various districts, I think, of course, you have to look at the implications on resources as well. Any response, Mr. Le? Well, I just want to point out that just for BPS, this school would not be affected by the transfer. Yes, it would not be affected. Li Yun Tin School and Li Yun Tin Secondary School and the other school would be affected. Okay, next one, Emily Lau. Thank you, Chairman. Excuse me for being late. Chairman, during our subcommittee meeting, we talk about, first of all, we do not support, the idea of having a small election area. It's not that about, some elected members may have very narrow perspectives. But if you have a bigger election area, then the elected member would not be just concerned about the interests of a little more than 10,000 people. Now, the transfer of the 2 seats to Wan Chai, you have seen reports that there seemed to be an agreement involved. Secret agreement involved, even to the extent that some people were actually identified to be future chairman. But such reports were not favorable. And if you are to transfer seats to the other district, then you should do it so that the number of seats in both councils would be similar. But now what we're seeing is there's still a big gap there. So I wonder what the administration did. Is it because somebody wanted to be a committee chairman, therefore you allocated 2 seats to the other districts? This is actually doesn't make much sense, and some schools will also end up being affected. And you don't make the numbers in both district councils similar either. Yes, can you ask him to give a more precise answer? Yes, I think the proposal this time, as explained in the paper, is mainly to cater for the future elections of elected members. And it's because we got views submitted that the Wenchai District Council, with the reduction of appointed seats, there'll be fewer seats left in the council in comparison with the EDC, which has a larger number. That's why we thought there's room for adjustment. That's the condition. As I said, if we follow the usual approach, we will just set up a new seat on the basis of a population of 17,000 people. But as I said, after getting those views, we have taken follow-up actions with residents and the councils involved. We did consider various options, for example, transferring a larger number of seats. In the initial discussion, we received a number of responses who were strongly opposed to that idea. And then, when we consulted residents and district councils, we came up with other more feasible options, including this 2 DCCA proposal. During the consultation on the 2 DCCA proposal, we found that most people supported it, and ultimately we got the support of the 2 councils, and therefore we went ahead and making a proposal to LegCo for amendment. Just then, Ms. Amila mentioned whether it's because there are people who stand to benefit from the change. No, that's not what the government had in mind at all. As I said, all along our consideration was how to make the operations of both councils even more smooth. After the change is done, of course, the number of elected members in the councils would not be the same. But you have to understand that, in Hong Kong, the population is not evenly distributed. And also all along, because of the history of various district councils, each council has its own characteristics and its own, backgrounds, and therefore we see the differences here now among them. Chairman, I'd like to ask the DS, in your original proposal, what's your original proposal like? Who strongly opposed to your original proposal? DS? The government back then did not come up with any concrete proposal. We were only there to listen to district councillors' views. Because from our perspective, any option could be considered. We took a totally open attitude. The precondition is that we want to enhance the operations of both councils. We did respect district councillors' views on what they think is a better option. So from the start, we took an open attitude. Of course, proposals suggested included the 2 DCCA proposal. There were also members who wanted nothing to be changed. There were also suggestions of having 4 seats or 10 or even 11 seats transferred. And they also said that changes could be made in various constituency areas. So we actually had an open consultation, but I don't think I can go through each councillor's reactions. But after several rounds of discussions, we found that we came to the conclusion that if there were to be too big a change, then residents may not find them acceptable, mainly because of reasons, the reason of sense of identity. For example, if you transfer North Point to Wan Chai, then there are members who thought that North Point is just too far away from Wan Chai. The two districts are just too different. We also considered the impact on school nets, and we don't want to see too big an impact on school nets because some schools which are more popular with parents in Eastern District, if they are to be transferred to Wan Chai, then parents would have strong opposition against that. So those are our considerations. Chairman, you only consulted district councils. Who were in the district councils? You mean those who were in the district councils had the voice? That means that they dominated the entire constitution?
Yeah.
Deputy Secretary, of course, we had to consider the fact that whatever options we come up with, it must be acceptable to the district councils and to the residents. Otherwise, it's difficult to take things forward. Mr. Sin Chung Gai, I just want to offer some comments. It's not ideal. That's what I want to say. After the changes, instead of 11, it will go up to 13. And for Eastern District Council, 35 instead of 37. Well, there are 48 seats in the two district councils, so it should be 24. Or if it's not 24 each, 2028 split is even better. It's better. Hong Kong Island is a small place. Well, Southern District Council is bigger in size, but the population is low. The Eastern District has a big population. I don't think it should be a problem if we transfer more CAs, constitutional areas, to Wan Chai. It will be easier. When you consider changes to the bus routes, the two district councils are not going to see eye to eye over such issues. I think 13 seats in the district council is too small a figure. Maybe I can respond to Mr. Sin and Ms. Lau. In the early stage, we talked to the district councils, the district council members, but in July, we also conducted a public consultation exercise. We received written submissions from the general public, and there was a public forum. And all the issues that I have talked about were raised for discussion. And some attendees did oppose to having big changes. Well, we are most concerned about the planning and provision of local services and facilities. It's not just something based on the figures. If you just say 37 is too big, and therefore you want to redraw the boundaries, this will be a flimsy ground to have the changes. We should be more concerned about the resources. Education, healthcare, police district are three important factors. But as I listened, there are other factors. Recreational facilities, Wan Chai is small. There are two swimming pools, Morrison Hill and Victoria Park, after the change. Although, in fact, residents don't care about how the boundaries are drawn as long as the facilities are accessible. But if the planning standards are based on the population of the district councils, then Eastern DC and Wan Chai we have to consider carefully. And now you have this one-size-fits-all mentality. You give 3 barrier-free access lips to each district, because you are rigid and inflexible. Why don't you look at the needs of the local population in distributing resources? You do it on the basis of the boundaries of district councils. Even with the constituency areas transferred, the two district councils are still very different in the numbers of DC members, and therefore in the share of resources. Would the government change the way resources are distributed? And that is to say, you do it on the basis of the population. You should do this, otherwise the problems will not go away. I have talked about healthcare, education. I want to add to that list, like recreational facilities, FEHD services, building department services, and so on. I'm not knowledgeable about how the different boundaries are drawn. I hope the government will list out how you draw the boundaries for different services and facilities. You said there are no changes. Please tell us the situation before the change and after the change. And how about manpower deployment of government departments? Would they change in consequence to the transfer of the constituency areas? I think a better approach would be to tell us if there are changes. If there are no changes, you don't need to tell us what it is. And there's a concern about the possible changes to school nets. Say, there's a fire in this constituency area that will be transferred to Wan Chai, and I call the FSD. Would the deployment of fire engines be changed by this transfer? That's just an example. That's about livelihood issues. Say you dial 999. Well, they may have if they have a problem in a district, they can redeploy someone else from another district. But anyway, please provide us with more information. Well, for A&E service in Wan Chai, you go to Rattanjeev Hospital. So, are you going to look at the actual distance in sending patients to a hospital, for example? Because if you send the same patient to the Eastern Nadeso Hospital, it will be a long travel. Mr. Leung mentioned the July consultation. I was surprised. There were only two options. From the very beginning, there was no third or fourth option. Why? How come that there were people opposing to the other options? Well, there was inadequate consultation. You didn't really ask the residents. I don't know how you managed to mobilize some Kaifong to oppose to the third or fourth option. We want to get more options so as to get a bigger room for a public discussion and to arouse people's interest in the matter. But so far, nothing of that nature has been offered. Well, the government just presented one option from the beginning to the very end. Deputy Secretary, when we consulted the public, basically we presented only two options. That is the two DCCA option and the status quo option. And also in the public discussion, although the point was not raised by the government, there were comments made by the attendees as regards why we did not come up with more options for public discussion. Well, that point was not made by the government, but as a matter of fact, this issue was brought up for discussion. This issue of more options was brought up for discussion. And as a matter of fact, there were residents raising objection to major changes. So that's what happened during consultation. Ms. Chung Kai, Deputy Secretary, the way you put it looks comical to me, like a comedy. Do we have a choice? Yes, no change, or change like I proposed. It's not a consultation. You should also give them more options, 4, 6, 8 proposals. And you should not just consult district council members. Do you like to be part of Wan Chai? Well, why don't you conduct some opinion polls? You should not just allow a district councillor to mobilize a few dozen supporters in raising certain points of views, and that's it. And you take it and move. As I've explained, of course we could have presented more options, but when a very early stage we receive views of dissent, and it was borne out by the consultation that the residents, some residents, share the opposition views. We don't think we should go for major changes. It's not that we just listened to 1 or 2 DC members and we'd withdraw and step back. Well, actually, we knew that if we were to introduce major changes, it would affect school nets very significantly. Some elite schools will be transferred to another school net, and we can expect major opposition coming from parents. Ms. Emily Lau, we are about to conduct the consultation on the constitutional reform. What are the options? Those proposed by you and those proposed by other parties? So actually, you are not going to make any major change because that will involve changes to school nets. You are saying that there will be too many problems. So please come clean. And that is to say, right from the beginning, there's only one option, the 2 DCCA option. The other is not an option. Status quo is not an option. Don't tell us that there will be another option involving 4, 7 DCCAs. Well, if you allow the public to make proposals, there can be others. Well, I hope in the coming constitutional reform option, you will not just come up with one option in reality. And there are issues, basic issues, that people would like the government to conduct a thorough review. But you are not doing this. You have not done this. And the problems cannot be resolved because the numbers are so different and you just transfer 2 seats. How can that be a solution? And then you said, well, originally you wanted to transfer more, but district council members objected. Suddenly, district council members are so powerful. So you are contradicting yourself. Actually, I paid attention to the consultation myself. There were many DC members raising objections. There was a suggestion of transferring all the CAs in North Point to Wan Chai, or there were people who would like to propose a greater Causeway Bay option. There were different ideas and proposals in the process. But if you want to talk about whether the consultation was properly done or what would happen to the constitutional reform package consultation, then I think the district council, this deputy secretary can enlighten us further. Well, all along we had this idea. We hoped that through this exercise we could make the operation of EDC and Wan Chai DC smoother. And of course we always respect the work experience of district council and their members, and we respect their power to hold certain views. And that's why we consulted them first before we listened to the public. In policy formulation, this is the usual practice. This is the usual approach, and that we'll try to work out some preliminary options before we go to the public. Of course, the consultation on the constitutional reform will be conducted soon. And I think the Secretary General has already said that in the first round that there will be general and wide consultation. I don't think we should talk about the consultation on constitutional reform any further. Some members have asked for additional information, additional papers. Please do so. We have reserved a slot for another meeting on the 23rd of November. Do members wish to convene another meeting? And the second question is, do we have to consult the public? If so, when should it be done? Do you think we should do this? Professor Kenneth Chan mentioned that he had received a letter from a school. At least we should seek the view of that school. What about a public hearing, public consultation? Well, I'm open about that. In a hearing, every deputation is given 3 minutes, but that particular school would be affected. I think we should give them more than 3 minutes.
Yes, Ms. Lau suggested, if there are members who suggested that they want the public consultation, then we should go ahead with it. So let's arrange a time. What day is it on December 3rd? A Tuesday? What time are we having the meeting on the 3rd? 4:30. Will there be a village rep? Village rep election from 5 to 6:30. There's a meeting on that. So let's arrange another time. We have a visit to the judiciary in the morning of December 3rd. So let's arrange the time for a public consultation, and then we also will have our second meeting as well. I think that's about it for today. Let's adjourn the meeting now, and we arrange the time for another meeting. Thank you.